Do you know the hell and horror you're about to impose on others by your complete total lack of civic responsibility? And to be candid, your utter ignorance and pure stupidity for voting for this joker? All politics are local, so why is George Soros interested in local political races like district attorneys' races? Listen right now to this just killer monologue from Tucker Carlson last night on Fox News. About 2 minutes, but it is worth your time. Check this out.
Turns out that many of the most important elections are the ones you hear nothing about. The news media barely covers them. Most voters don't know they're happening. As a result of this, a small group of committed extremists gets to control the outcome of those elections, often with disastrous results. It happens all the time. Bill de Blasio, for example, is a very famous person, but he was elected to his current term as mayor with the support of 8.5% of all New Yorkers. De Blasio then used that non-mandate from a totally non-representative Potemkin election to completely destroy the biggest city in our country. That's not democracy as we were taught it, yet increasingly it's how things work here. George Soros understands that. Soros has an eye for vulnerabilities. He became extraordinarily rich by finding ways to exploit the weaknesses in systems that he did not himself build. In the early 1990s, Soros became a billionaire by shorting the British pound, crushing the Bank of England in the process. He went on to repeat those tactics in other financial crises in countries around the world. And then George Soros turned his attention to the United States, where he decided he would fundamentally change our society. Soros began funding politicians and political initiatives that had very little popular support. But because so few were paying attention to what he was doing, he often got his way. On those rare occasions when Soros was criticized for doing this, for subverting our democracy, he and his allies in the news media screamed bigotry. He was yet another oppressed billionaire victim of discrimination. And mostly that tactic works because it always works. So he kept doing it. If you're wondering why so many people are being robbed, raped, and killed in American cities right now, George Soros is part of the reason for that. Soros has funded the campaigns of left-wing extremists in district attorney races all over the country, in cities like Philadelphia, St. Louis, Chicago, Boston. Traditionally, a prosecutor's job is to enforce the law, but Soros wanted rigid ideologues who would refuse to do that, and instead let murderers and rapists go free while allowing our society itself to degrade and collapse.
All politics are local, folks. Obamacare did significant damage. Stimulus spending does significant damage to us when it comes out of our wallets and our businesses. And we never, the government spending comes from us. All of these liberal policies and some bad Republican policies do significant damage, and they hurt. But not many of them will get you killed right away. Liberal district attorneys who push criminals, murderers, killers, rapists, burglars, robbers, home invaders back out on the street to kill, home invade, burgle, and rob again can get you killed. Why is Soros funding these people? I'll get to that in a second. The bigger plan here. I'm sure the left, it's a conspiracy theory. Don't care. It's neither a conspiracy nor a theory. He's openly doing it. It's not quiet. A conspiracy usually has a patina of secrecy to it, correct? If me and Joe were conspiring to engage in some kind of major bank robbery scandal, we'd probably keep it quiet. Soros is just openly funding people. You can look at Federal Election Commission records. It's not a secret. So it's neither a conspiracy nor a theory. Or if it's a conspiracy, it's a bad one because we can all see it. But it's definitely not a theory. Soros wants district attorneys in your city who will not prosecute the bad guys, who will then prey on you and your kids. Fact. Factaroo. Here's the second part of this interview. It's a little briefer segment, but important. Where Tucker, you'll see the segment's going to start, so you audio listeners understand, with a woman whose child was murdered, and one of Soros's funded district attorneys is just like, hey, let's let the dude back out on the street. Whatevs, man. Whatevs. Constitutional provision number 4 in the liberal Bible. Whatevs when everything else doesn't work. The woman's child was murdered. So it starts with an LA television station's interview with the woman. Tucker then comes back in and then interviews a woman who's the sister of a police officer who was murdered by another dude who may now get out at some point in the future because they don't want enhancements on his sentence. Does that sound fair to you? Sounds like, to me, you video listeners can translate, very sorry, your kids maybe, maybe not, but it's worth it. Check this out.
Her child was murdered. Does George Gascon care? Of course not. Does George Soros care? Well, he sent $2.2 million to George Gascon. That answers the question. And the grieving mother? She can't raise money for the Democratic Party. She's not raising money for BLM. No one cares what she thinks. We think it's important to hear directly from the people whose lives are affected, overturned, and in some cases ended by George Gascon and George Soros, who funds him. We're going to bring attention to that right now. Christina Solano is the sister of the officer we told you about, Joseph Solano, who was murdered, and we're happy to have her on tonight. Christina, thanks so much for coming on. So express, if you will, I can't imagine how you feel watching this unfold. Yeah. What does this mean to your family, watching George Gascon discuss measures to make it possible for the accused murderer to get out on parole?
It's unbelievable. I mean, I just can't believe that this is happening. I mean, when we were told last week that, Gascon was going to, take away the life sentencing and no death penalty, we were in shock. We were like, this can't be. So, we just want to get the word out there that people need to know what he's all about. I mean, this is unbelievable. I mean, after hearing so many other people's cases and what he's doing with their cases, it's so upsetting. I mean, this guy needs to be in jail for life. So I just don't understand it.
I mean, we're talking about your brother. So did George Gascon call you to talk this through before he decided to make the change?
Are you kidding me? No, he has never called me. Not at all. We heard this last week after the last hearing for my brother.
I watched that live last night. I won't forget that line ever. No, I won't. Ever. What line? The sister, whose mourning now will never end. Mourning with a U. Did George Gascon, the new district attorney, reach out to you before they dumped the enhancements on this man who did this to your brother? Are you kidding me? She says. Tucker's sitting there stoic, like, what? Didn't even reach out. Soros guy. Coming to a neighborhood near you, folks. Good luck. And to those of you who voted for this man, do you know the hell and horror you're about to impose on others by your complete, total lack of civic responsibility? And to be candid, your utter ignorance and pure stupidity for voting for this joker? You're getting people killed. Killed. There's no coming back from that. This isn't a movie. This isn't Unforgiven. Will you money barging in at the end? I've killed just about everything that walks and talks. No. This is real. So not fictional characters. Real people who are going to die because of your complete stupidity and the ignorance of the man you elected.
You just heard Dan Bongino.